Books have always held a special place in my heart, and today I'm so excited to share the newest additions to my collection. The first book is The Storm We Made, which was actually my book of the month pick back in December, but I haven't gotten around to reading it yet. I was supposed to read it, but I actually ended up reading a different book instead, and this is a historical fiction which is set in 1945 in Malaya. And this novel is about a Malayan mother who becomes an unlikely spy for the invading Japanese forces during World War II, and the repercussions that it has on her life and her family. Historical fiction is one of my favorite genres to read, and I really like learning about World War II, but most of the books that I've read have either been set in Germany or France, so this one really intrigued me because it's set in Malaysia. So this is Vanessa Chan's debut novel, and she interlaces some of her own family anecdotes inspired from the stories by her grandparents into this novel, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Next up, I have two books by Kristen Hanna, and the first one is The Women. So this is also a historical fiction which is set in the 1960s in the US during the Vietnam War, and it follows the story of a young nurse who follows in her brother's footsteps and enlists to serve during the Vietnam War. This next book is The Great Alone, and it follows a family who moves to a remote area in Alaska who plan to live off the grid. They soon realize that they're underprepared to survive as the nights get longer, colder, and more dangerous. I was drawn to these stories because I like reading about strong, resilient women, and last month I read The Four Winds, which was also by Kristen Hanna, and it was a 5-star read for me, and it was just really beautiful and tragic, so I'm really hoping that I'll like these books as well. I feel like Kristen Hanna just does such a good job of writing about the human spirit and how people can go through these really difficult times and still find ways to be resilient. And even though she has a reputation for writing really sad stories, I find that I'm drawn to these types of books. I work with patients who go through really tough times, for example, recovering from a serious injury or learning to live with a chronic disability, and it never ceases to amaze me how they're able to just persevere through these difficult times, and it really inspires me, especially when I'm going through a tough time myself. Each of my patients' journeys and their stories remind me that life is a collection of experiences. From joy to sorrow to love and loss, all of these experiences are woven together. And it's through these experiences and the emotions that we feel that I feel like really connect us to one another, reminding us of our shared human experience. This next book is The House of Eve, and it's also a historical fiction which is set in the 1950s in the US. So I've been reflecting on the books that I've been reading recently, and I really want to diversify my reading, so I've been doing some research on BIPOC authors, and I chose this book specifically because it was set in the 1950s, and that's a time period that I'm really interested in learning about, and I'm also really interested in the romance that's going on in this book because I find that I'm just not really liking the romance novels that I'm reading, so I'm hoping that if it's set in a historical context, maybe I'll be more interested in reading it. And since I love reading about history and I want to read more books by BIPOC authors, I'm really happy that I picked this one up and added it to my collection. So if you're just getting back into reading, or you want to build a more consistent reading habit and you want a place to keep track of all of your reading goals, I created a free reading journal that you can download below in my description box. I also picked up a couple of nonfiction books as well, and the first one on my list is Feel Good Productivity. This book is written by Ali Abdaal, who is a doctor and a YouTuber, and he shares the science behind how to do more of what you love to do. So I'm a huge fan of Ali Abdaal. I've watched a lot of his videos, and I bought this book mostly because I wanted to support him, but also because I was interested in his take. And I know that there are tons of productivity books out there, and I've even read a couple of them myself, but what really interested me about this book was that it talks about the joy and the balance of productivity. So productivity doesn't necessarily have to be this stressful thing, but it can actually be something that we enjoy doing. So I'm really hoping that I learned some good tools because I always strive for balance in my life, and hopefully I can share some of these things that I learn with my patients as well as you guys watching my videos. This next book that I picked up is Set Boundaries, Find Peace, and this book is all about finding simple yet powerful ways to establish more healthy and firm boundaries in your own life. So setting boundaries has always been something that I've struggled with. Although I've gotten much better at it, it's still a work in progress. But once I did start setting more healthy boundaries in my life, I've noticed that my mental health has really improved. I've had better relationships, and I also just feel more comfortable in my own skin. So when I discovered this book, I just knew that I had to add it to my collection because I feel like this is something that I'm going to be referencing a lot, and since it's a skill that I'm still learning, I can definitely use more resources. The last book that I picked up is Unmasking Autism. This This book was written by Dr. Devin Price, who shares his personal experience with masking and explores the history, social science, and research behind it while laying the groundwork for unmasking to encourage self-expression and embrace neurodiversity. I work with a lot of clients who are on the autism spectrum, and one of the things I teach is how to advocate for themselves and their needs. So I picked up this book because I want to learn more tools and strategies to support my clients and their families, use more neurodiverse affirming practice, as well as advocate for a more inclusive community. And there you guys have it. Those are the newest books that I've added to my collection, and I'm really excited to start reading them. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have read any of these books or if you have any recommendations for me. If you'd like to learn more tips on how to read more books, you can watch this video next. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked my video, please like, comment, and consider subscribing to my channel if you'd like to see more from me. And as always, please take care of yourself because you deserve it, and I'll see you in my next video.